Hello, my name is Leah Fromm with the LTV Community Intern Project. Today I'm here with Mr. Manny Vilar, the Republican candidate for Suffolk County Legislator. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Leah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So just to get us started, can you share some light on how hectic the campaign has been so far?
Very hectic. The legislative districts in a county are based on population size. Well, in our case, and there's 18 districts. In our case, our population is spread out over 2 townships. So it's literally Montauk to Eastport. So it's a haul to get from one side to the other. And I find myself on a regular basis literally driving from Montauk to Eastport. Like tonight I have a fundraiser in West Hampton. So from here, I'm shooting straight out to West Hampton.
Sounds very chaotic. And can you tell us just a little bit about your family and anything you think that the voters should know that's not in your official bio?
Oh, sure. Well, I think everything's in the official bio. Dad of 6, had 6 wonderful kids, went through East Hampton High School. From Matt, who's 35 years old, Matt Vilar, who now lives in Wilmington, North Carolina, with 2 of my grandchildren, and his wife Lauren. Brendan, who actually lives in Montauk, and him and his significant other have one on the way, due in February. Then there's Catherine, who's 30. I'm never supposed to give a woman's age, right? Yeah, my daughter's around 30, or 30, going to be 31. And then I have a little bit of a 10-year gap. 20-year-old twins, James and Jack. And then a year later, Tommy, who's a recent graduate of East Hampton High School as well, attending RIT in Rochester. And James is in Suffolk, works as a TCO for the village, sort of kind of following in my footsteps. And Jack, who's going to Stony Brook for pre-med.
Nice. So upon reading your blog, I've seen that you've worked with the PBA and a lot with law enforcement. And how do you think that working with PBA, law enforcement, has prepared you for a role in government?
So, police officers in general, you have to do a couple things professionally. You have to be a good judge of character, be able to think on your feet, and be able to make split-second decisions, because a lot of time there's really not a lot of time to make a decision. Then once you and then being a supervisor, and I was a senior sergeant in New York State when I retired, I had overall supervisions of Nassau and Suffolk counties when I would go on duty. So there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of considerations that you need to take when you make decisions. Classic example is what I always tell everyone: you've never seen traffic or gotten frantic phone calls from the governor's office until you shut down the Southern State Parkway at rush hour. Then let me tell you, people get crazy. Or the Ocean Parkway or any of the other major thoroughfares. And having been the one to make that decision. Then on a PBA, police unions in general are political animals, right? You have to deal with your elected body. In my case, it was a statewide union. We were the 5th biggest police union in the state. So I had to deal extensively with the New York State Legislature and the various iterations within the legislature, as well as multiple governors. I've dealt with and I know personally every governor, from Governor Pataki to Governor Hochul.
And so I've seen that you've been a lobbyist in Albany, and can you just discuss what you've done as a lobbyist, what you've been lobbying for, and all of that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So my primary focus for many, many years, right, was representing my PBA and the members of my Police Benevolent Association. And like all traditional unions, you advocate for salary, benefits, better work conditions. You sort of tip your toe in onto issues that will affect quality of life issues, in the ones that are relevant within the sphere of the people you represent in employment. So when I retired, it really only made sense, having done this for all these years, to start a firm, hang out a shingle, and become a lobbyist. So I immediately picked up clients involved in public employee health insurance. Health insurance is the kind of thing, if you talk to people that had to negotiate it, they'd much rather stick a fork in their ear than it is very dry, very intense, and not easy. So I have multiple bills in the state legislature, which I drafted, which are currently going through the process, sponsored by Assemblyman McDonald and Assemblyman Weapon, both Democrats, and in the state Senate, sponsored by Senator Jackson, Robert Jackson out of Harlem, who was a great guy, love the man to death. Then I also picked up, sort of outside of my normal field, green energy clients involved in hydrogen, which is ultimately the renewable fuel of the future. It's a 24/7 fuel source that is available when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, and we don't have to worry about batteries exploding in neighborhoods and being on fire from days on end. So that truly is the wind source. And the most interesting thing about it is the people most opposed to development of hydrogen tends to be wind and solar. So it's a very interesting mix.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like an interesting field. And so you touched on drafting legislator, and how else do you feel that working as a lobbyist has prepared you for the role of Suffolk County legislator?
So, a couple things, right? And some of it has to do with the PBA stuff. The important thing to remember is, as a legislator in Suffolk County, you're one of 18. The East End is pretty much homogenous, right? We know we got the 5 East End towns. We're sort of in our own little world as opposed to the 5 Western towns, okay? So when you take that scenario, it's basically 2 against 18. And the thing that people should remember is everything seems like Republican Democrat politics. It's not. There are a majority and a minority in every piece of legislation, every role. What's in that majority and minority? A lot of times does not break along party lines. It breaks along geographical interests. So we know the other 16 have a very West End point of view. To be the East End legislator, you have to A, have a good understanding of the way government works, what you can achieve and what you can't achieve, how to push your issue and advocate for your issue, because it's all about advocating, and how to build relationships with both Democrats and Republicans and anybody in between.
And as Suffolk County legislator, you'd obviously be involved in the passing of laws. And do you have any ideas on specific legislation that you would plan to pass if you were elected to office?
Oh God, yes. Yes, tons. So one of the things we have to address, right? And it's a broad thing. And every president in the United States, going as far back as Dwight Eisenhower, has talked about this and has invested federal funds into this, is infrastructure. Infrastructure is the key to building a economic environment that will create well-paying, sustaining jobs. Right? Now, it sounds easy. When you don't invest in that infrastructure, you have an erosion of your economic base. Add into our mix our very vibrant and healthy second homeowner economy, right? Who, as a second homeowner, is here because of a disposable income, which far exceeds, and this is the tipping point, right? That their disposable income far exceeds the income potential of our local community, our local residents. And a traditional community, the cost of living is based on the income potential of that community. Well, in this case, we have an outside influence that's driving up that income potential, that's driving up that cost of living. So we need to create infrastructure that will sustain economic growth. What does that all mean for everybody at home, right? What does this all mean? Okay, what this means is septic. We have to manage our septic systems. We failed planning. I know planners hate me for this because I say this all the time, but 40, 50 years ago, long before you were born, right? Planners failed to realize that our ground, our filtration system for our septic system can only handle so much, and we have far exceeded what our grounds can handle. So we need to invest in that infrastructure. But another one, it's right in our face, right? Every day. All you gotta do is get on a car. Traffic. We have a road system that is unable to handle the current volume of automobiles that we have. And we see that in the summertime, right? When all those second homeowners, right, come out and they're here for the summer now, that 100-day war, Memorial Day to Labor Day, right? We see there's a problem there. So we need to invest in our infrastructure. Electric, we know the electric stinks. Yes, we're gonna get renewable energy, but the power grid itself, the wires that run overhead, underground cabling. So we're going to create and look to pass legislation that's going to improve our infrastructure. We're gonna seek a complete redesign and redevelop of the County Road 39 corridor, right? We're gonna look to create affordable workspace, because that's an important component. There is no affordable workspace. And it's basically none in East Hampton, very limited in Southampton. And one of the ways to do all this is going to create, and I'm gonna try and champion, it's my intent to champion, not try, I will, is to create an Eastern Long Island Transportation Authority to take over the assets, assume the assets of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. I've actually already spoken to a lot of stakeholders in this, and I've already started actually drafting the legislation, because that's an Albany thing, right? So we need to be good advocates and stewards here to advocate for our legislators in Albany, because we gotta remember, someone out in Buffalo, New York is gonna be voting on that bill. So we need to be strong advocates and to build that community base to create that.
So you mentioned the second homeowners and traffic and affordableness of living here. And as a student, as a person whose parents both work in our East Hampton education system, I've seen firsthand how the lack of affordable housing really drives people away from living here, especially when it comes to teachers, keeping teachers on staff. How do you plan to address the lack of affordable housing in the eastern end?
So here's a couple things we need to remember, right? We can't build our way out of the mess we're in. We can't build enough affordable housing. East Hampton, Southampton towns are pretty close to technical build out, right? And there is some talk about, accessory apartments, and we need to pursue that, because not everybody wants to own a home, and we get it. But what we should be doing, and again, I go back to creating this economic environment. We have a problem when we have doctors, nurses, cops, teachers, other professional people having to live in campers in their parents' yard in the summertime because there is no summertime rentals, right? So we need, and they're making good salaries. I mean, I was a public servant myself, right? But I know at my salary, I would not be able to get a foothold and a start here in East Hampton at today's rate, and neither would your mom and dad. So the reality is we need to work on that infrastructure. We need, every problem has three parts to it. There's immediate solution, short-term solution, long-term solution. All right, we should be looking to try and alleviate the stresses through an immediate solution. We should be looking short-term. That's the planning ultimately for the long term. And the long-term fix, really, truly, I'm 62, it probably won't be for me. It'll probably be for you and your children, and my kids and my grandchildren. That'll be the long-term fix. So we need to stop, because elected officials, and I've known a lot of them, tend to like to put Band-Aid solutions on problems, but never tackle the hard stuff. The hard stuff is the long-term fix. And you see that with affordable housing. Rah, 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 we're gonna build affordable housing. But nobody's talking about the 20-year fix. And that's what we need to address.
And how do you think in building more affordable housing, I mean, you've mentioned the traffic is already an issue, as we continue to build more affordable housing, it just creates additional traffic problems. How do you plan to address the additional traffic problems that will arise as a result of affordable housing?
So the greatest thing we need to do, we only have one corridor in and out of here. It's County Road 39. That road is beyond the volume. And volume is every road can handle so many automobiles an hour. Once you exceed that, you start to get traffic back up. When you get traffic back up, people seek all their alternatives in local residential neighborhoods. Cut this way, that way, and every 32 ways from here to Sunday to try and get a little faster. So we need to redesign County Road 39. We can't fix it by thinking, oh, we're gonna try and get the lights maybe more in sync. That's not gonna fix it. We need to bring in real planners and we need to invest real money. And we need to be able to get the state to buy into this. We need to get federal funds to buy into this. So we really need a whole community engaged, involvement, and get our elected officials on the town level. Both here in East Hampton, that County Road 39 ain't anywhere near East Hampton, but it impacts East Hampton. So we need to get all our elected officials involved, from local right on to or in particular in this case, our Congressman Nick LaLota, who I've already spoken to multiple times about this issue. So we need to get all these individuals, we need to pull everybody together. And this is why I want to be county legislature, because one thing I can say, and everybody says the same thing, he sure seems to know a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned previously the septic issues, and that is also something that comes with the number of people who are out here, especially in the summers. And the septic systems obviously have an effect on our water quality. Do you have any plans as to how to address the water quality issues that especially the South Fork is facing?
So right now we have two alternatives, right? We have the existing septic systems, which we need to move away from. The problem is government, like I said, Band-Aid solution. They get that tunnel vision, that myopic view, very short-term fix. The problem is we have two choices right now. That's it. These are the only choices on the system. Sewers, incredibly expensive, but truly the best way to handle septic. And the IA systems that are labor intensive. When I say labor intensive, they require a lot of maintenance. And just like an automobile, very few people follow the auto manual in their automobile. They wait till the little light comes on the dashboard, right? And then septic systems require regular maintenance and they require regular use, the new IA systems. So we need to really think, it's a term I use a lot, I say out of the box. We need to seek, what do they do in the Netherlands where they're a couple feet below seawater? What do they do in Myrtle Beach, Virginia Beach, anywhere, the Georgia coastline, Brunswick, Georgia? What do they do in these areas? Nantucket, how are they handling their septic? So we need to have, or in the Mojave Desert, there's, like I know in Germany, what they do is they do storage, right? So everyone has a giant storage tank. It gets pumped out regularly. There's community storage tank, underground storage tanks. Septic runs that tank. It's pumped out, and then they incinerate the septic waste, and then return it for fertilizers. That's also very big in Wisconsin. So we need to really look at how we're doing this. But what we should not do, which is exactly what we're doing, we're putting all our eggs in one basket. We got this. I'm not seeing any alternatives. This is it. And that we need to really be forward thinking as opposed to the Einstein theory, right? We know Einstein, do the same thing over and over again and expect different results.
And our final question today, can you explain why you made the decision to pivot from local town politics towards county politics?
So, that's actually a very good question. So, I retired after 38 years, long career in public service, had absolutely no intention in running. I was asked by various community leaders that said, look, we got a problem in East Hampton and Southampton. We have a problem with traffic. We have a problem with our septic. Our housing. We have a lot of problems that the county is failing to address. We need someone that has a good, solid foundation and base with a reach. They can champion the cause and go to Albany, go to Washington. They could deal with those 16 legislators up on the West End, regardless of whether they're Democrat or Republican. Because at the end of the day, if there comes an issue that's East End, West End, trust me, Democrat or Republican, they're all going to try and vote one way. They all vote for the same stuff. So we need to, they said we need someone who's an advocate, who has the experience, who will be a strong voice. So how could I not? I was in a great spot in life. I just retired after 38 years. The beauty of what I've done for a living, and I earned every penny of it, but I actually didn't need to run. I have a business. I have this. I'm doing this because it's a continuation of public service and serving my community. And just like you, just like you are, your parents, well, I have kids here too. And I want to make this a better community for them and you and all your classmates.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time. Once again, my name is Leah Fromm with the LTV Community Intern Project. Thank you for tuning in to this episode where I've interviewed Manny Vilar, the candidate for Suffolk County Legislator.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Leah. It's been an absolute pleasure.